Okay, welcome to the June 25th, 2024 session of TAPR and HamSCI technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week I was doing some cleaning in the shack, and so things are a little neater. It's a little easier to find things. So that's been a job for me. So next on the list, we have Nathaniel, W2 NAF. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thank you, Dave. So last week was my first week back in Scranton after it seems like one conference after another. So it was nice to be back and I'm starting to get things back to normal. Um, I think probably some of the biggest progress that happened last week is I have a project where we have a student working with Bob McGuire to develop a low cost ionosonde, and we made some major progress on that project over the past week. First thing they got it to work with Edis radios during the eclipse, and they got some nice results for that. And when we were Gerard presented that at the CDAR conference, and we realized at first we thought the heights were 100 kilometers too high, and then we realized that we didn't account for the fact that that was just virtual height. It didn't account for the group delay that the ionosphere builds in. So we realized that the measurements were correct. So that was a big win. And then the next thing that was a big win was we wanted to, instead of using EDIS USRPs, we wanted to use low-cost red pitayas. And we were having trouble with the external clock version of that we've had. But we were able, Bob McGuire and Gerard were able to overcome those problems this week, and they got the system to work, and they brought it up and made measurements. So that project is going very nicely now. So we're hoping that Gerard and Bob will be able to present that at the TAPR DCC this fall. And we're using GNU Radio as well. So we're very excited about that. And then I've continued just working on advising additional students and getting them going, and working on the LSTID project as well. So back to net.
Very good. Next on the list is Dana. Dana, welcome. Do you have any comments?
Did you say Dana?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't have a lot to contribute tonight. In fact, this is my first time on one of these technical sessions, so I'm just mainly camping out to see what's going on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, welcome. And we usually do a roll call, and then we get into technical stuff that we want to talk about later on. So next on the list is Dave, KD0 EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
Hello. People are signaling at me, but on another thing, but I'm just ignoring them. Not a lot to report here. I tried to check on those Infineon FX10s earlier today and didn't see anything this morning. Haven't looked again, but they sure are they sure are saying, we're going to have an announcement sooner or later. And but other than that, nothing that's really notable. Been trying to clean up, rearrange, get things back together from all the activity getting solar stuff installed last week and the week before. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Okay. Very good. Next on the list, we have Jim, K4BSE. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, good evening, all. My brain, I'm trying to get it back into some form other than mush because it was lying on the beach down in Florida last week. And so I'm trying to get back in the saddle now. Got back on Saturday, missed field day because of that, and I was just too wet by the time we got home. Anyway, let's see, the main thing here, I'm wondering how could I find out if my magnetometer is still reporting in or not. It shortly before I went on vacation, I noticed that I had lost a display on the magnetometer, Raspberry Pi. And I think it is still working, but I'm not sure because I lost the display on it. And I have assumed that it's the something went wrong with the Raspberry Pi display. I have pretty much eliminated anything on this end. So I've ordered another Raspberry Pi 4 and should get it day after tomorrow and put that in. But I don't know whether I've been reporting data all this time or not.
Okay, well, next on the list is Bill Engelkey, AB4EJ. Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks, Dave. Not a whole lot to report. I have been corresponding with a fellow named Taylor Lindley from Auburn University, who I met at Cedar, who he and his team are putting together they're doing a whole bunch of VLF research. And I want to get him on this meeting and get him hooked up with Jonathan. But I see Taylor and I just corresponded by email for the first time today, and I told him about this meeting, but it was probably just too short notice. So hopefully he'll join next week, and we can join forces with them and save them a lot of trouble and reinventing a wheel on a low-cost VLF receiver if they can use what Jonathan has developed. So that's all I had. Back to Net.
Okay. Next on the list is Bob N5BRG. Go ahead, Bob.
Hello, folks. I spending my spare time working on Python program to collect my magnetometer data and graph it so that I can look at it on a day-to-day basis and try to understand what's there and learn from it. That's all I have to talk about. Go ahead. Back to you, Dave.
Okay. Next on the list is Dave W6OQ. Go ahead.
Right. Okay. So weekend with the local ham club on field day. I don't know how we did. We weren't really trying to make the points this year. It was more about having people come out and bring their equipment and get them on the air and make sure they know what they're doing and stuff like that. Some new general class guys working HF for the first time. So that was interesting. And also, I've done a review of the receiver requirements document. And just before this meeting, I sent out a list of things that I found to discuss, perhaps.
Okay, very good. Next on the list, let's see, would be David McGaw, N1HAC. Go ahead, David.
Good evening, everyone. I guess the big event this week was an abbreviated field day. Our local club got set up in the rain on Saturday and took down early because we had a tornado watch out, which it turned out was wise. We didn't get too much damage here. But we did get some, but southern New Hampshire had a possible tornado go through. There's some interesting videos on the local news. But yeah, it's been a fairly wild week with the heat and then the storms. We had a very large storm that came through here on Thursday. And I usually don't worry about thunderstorms. I have a nice radio spot. Storms go around me. Not this time. I was at the house looking out the window, saw a bright flash and immediately thunder. It's like, oh, that was close. Must have been right up the street. Luckily, it didn't hit the power line, so no damage that I can tell. But that was our excitement for the week. Looking forward to seeing what we have to discuss about the radios. Back to Net.
Okay. Next on the list is Majid. Go ahead, Majid.
Good evening, everyone. Actually, I don't have much to say. Back to the Net.
Okay. Next on the list is Phil, K9Q. Go ahead, Phil.
Hello, gentlemen. Didn't do much for field day this weekend. Went out to one of the local clubs and while we launched a balloon and just chatted. I didn't actually do any operating, but I did tune around last night. Only 40-meter CW sure was hopping. And the past years, that's usually what I do all night long because nobody wants to stay up that late. But I just don't have the energy for it anymore. Anyway, what I have been doing, at least in my own shack, is I was trying to apply the RX 888 external clock update kit to a couple of my units. And that unit went in easily enough, although I really hate U.FL connectors. God, do I hate those little things. The problem I had was getting that damn thermal pad in place. Somebody's got to show me how to do that because the thing is just too thick. I couldn't get it to slide in. It just scraped off the board each time. I think I ended up wrecking 2 pads before I finally was able to get just a piece of one in the areas that really matter. So if somebody could show me how to do that, that'd be great. I think Rob said he needs to do a YouTube video on exactly how to
Yes,
do
I
that.
think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll offer what I do with that is I
Yeah,
actually
sure.
stretch it out to thin it out, so it slides in, and
Well, yeah,
then
I
I
was trying to
push it.
roll it out with a small screwdriver, kind of like cookie dough,
You could do that.
but it didn't
Just
really
kind of
work.
pull it and then slide it in, and then I push it from each end to smush it together and get it to contact.
Squish it from each end.
Take a like a screwdriver,
Yeah,
odd end screwdriver or a smudger or something like that, and
yeah.
push it in so that it compacts it, fills in the spaces. Because I've always worried about whether it contacts the case anyway. That way, you know it's getting some contact.
Well, the problem was not getting contact. The problem was it was so tight that I couldn't get it in without the case just basically sliding it
Right.
off. Kind of
Well,
like
that's
one
what I'm saying is that I thin it down so it won't do that.
thin
Slide it in, and then I
What do you
press
mean
it
by
together.
thin it down? Because I was using a screwdriver to kind of roll it out like cookie dough, but it still didn't
Yeah.
work.
Well, maybe you didn't get it
Maybe not. Rob said
quite
something
thin enough.
about using the sheet of plastic to help tease it in there, but I didn't quite get what he was talking about.
Yeah, I think he's actually used a sheet of foil.
Well, Tapper includes a sheet of a old piece of copper tape, and I tried it on both sides. I tried it on the inside of the case, and I tried it even flip around the other way on the pad, and I still couldn't get it to slide in
Yeah,
either way.
I think the idea was to stick it to the pad so it would slide on the case.
That's what I tried
Anyway.
first, but it just
Okay.
scraped off too, kind of like those videos you see of trucks going under overpasses are a little bit too low for that's exactly what mine looked like.
Yes.
Anyway, once I finally kind of semi gave up on that, I did get the thing connected to my Leo Bodnar unit, and I'm not sure exactly the right levels to drive it with. I do have a Tapper distribution amplifier there. I'll end up using that for the 10 megahertz that my AirSpy R2s need. Apparently it needs 10 megahertz while the RS 888 wants 27 megahertz. Does anybody know why the RS 888 should necessarily require 27 megahertz? I mean, I put code in there that Franco wrote a while ago that can set the clock synthesizer for apparently any frequency. Should it work on 10 megahertz if I set it for 10 megahertz?
The chip that's the synthesizer chip that's in there is one that's intended to be driven by a crystal, a 27 megahertz crystal.
Yeah.
And the external clock mod overdrives. They turn off the crystal oscillator and then overdrive the crystal pins on the synthesizer. And I think that synthesizer has a limited range over which it will work on the crystal pins.
On the crystal pins, okay.
Yeah, I'm not. It would be actually a good question why the Silicon Labs chip is so specific about its input. And I know 25 and 27 it accepts, and it may just be a matter of that's what they have their software set up for.
Well, but you know, Franco wrote the software and I incorporated it, and I can, you know, program the synthesizer any way I like. I mean, I'm already doing that to do calibration, frequency calibration. Kernel
I'd be
TC.
interested to know what the performance difference is, if any, if we put 10 megahertz into it, because
Well, I tried setting 10 megahertz reference and putting 10 megahertz in. The thing was not locked. I was getting sample rates that were like 1.5 times too high.
So,
did the software know it was 10?
Huh? Oh yeah,
Did
I
your-
told her. Yeah, I wrote
Okay.
this. Actually, Franco and I wrote the software. I put in a hook that
yeah.
specify a reference other than the default of 27 megahertz. So I put in 10, and I fed it 10.
Well,
And I put a while ago, I put in software that compares the sample rate, the number of samples over a minute against a real time clock, and tells you if it's grossly off. And in that case, it was. And of course, it wasn't receiving anything either.
well, Scott, who is of course mute, put in the chat that he is running his at 10. So
Oh, so
maybe
10.
we need to learn the secret.
I might not have been giving it the right level. I was also I was going back and forth between direct driving from one of my GPS DOs to using the, I have a older 10 megahertz GPS DO guy from China that I had been using for a while, and I fired up the old Bodnor that I got, which will produce both 10 and 27, by the way, if you have a dual output unit, which is nice. So I must not be, maybe I'm just not feeding at the right voltage level.
Yeah, I
Well,
actually set
you
my
set the
boat not
current.
to
You set the
20.
current to 8 milliamps, and then there's a little attenuator board that you get from, what is it, Turn Island Systems?
Yeah, that's what I have. That's what I have.
And so set your driver level to 8 milliamps.
Oh, to 8 milliamps. Okay.
But that's for the 27 megahertz. He's wondering if it's different for 10.
Oh, well, no, I don't know.
Yeah, I was also trying to feed it through I was trying a number of combinations. I was also trying to feed it through one of the TAPR distribution amplifiers. And I realized when I assembled it, I didn't set the gain, but I set the gain so that it was putting out, I think into a high Z load, it was putting out about 3.3 volts, something like that. So I just set it for. Of course, it's going to drop below that if it's got I think it's the Paul's circuit does have a 50 ohm input impedance, so it should pull it down below 3.3.
Right.
So the 27 megahertz in the synthesizer chip is the reference frequency for the phase detector for a hundreds of megahertz VCO, and it has an onboard loop filter. So, yeah, so it doesn't like that reference going down too low, although people do run it at 10, yeah.
Okay, I think the SI chips are used in a lot of places now. And
They certainly are.
the AirSpy R2, and the AirSpy R2 expects 10 megahertz. Now, I don't know how to change that one because I think it's set in the firmware. Now, I've been feeding that one 10 megahertz for a long time. It works fine.
Yeah,
Of course, that may be a different model.
There's a bunch of different versions of that chip, some
Yeah.
of which are designed to be driven externally and some of which are not. The
Right.
one on the RX 888 is one that is not.
Right. Okay, well, that's about it from here.
Well-
Oh, one more thing I wanted to ask. What is a decent source of SMA cables? I'm really beginning to hate that connector, or at least the cables I'm getting from Amazon. Oh God, they're awful.
I buy Amphenol cables from DigiKey. I don't screw.
Amphenol and DigiKey. All right, you can get whatever connectors and lengths you want.
Yep.
What
Right.
about Elcom?
Elcom's fine.
I think ABR does a good one too, don't they?
Who?
ABR.
Okay, just don't get the cheap ones from Amazon, huh?
No, definitely not.
I mean, I've had those things actually twist off and the cables pull out.
Yeah, my story of cheap cable is my boss, who's a cheapskate, well known, is he bought a whole bunch of RG58 to lay out in Greenland. And it turned out it had 35% coverage.
Ooh.
And brittle copper at that. So it was always breaking.
You cut there. I lost my net connection. Which Dave about the
it was the RG58 had 35% shield coverage.
Yeah.
and it had very brittle copper in
Yeah.
it. So
Bad for cold weather.
yeah, and
Yep.
very difficult to terminate because it just kept breaking off.
Yeah.
So don't buy cheap cables.
Nope,
Cables.
don't pay.
It's just like always get testing on your PC boards. You don't want to be debugging bare boards or coax cables.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
I'm gonna go ahead with the list
Yep.
and let's see. Looks like next on the list is Jay Schwartz, WB8 SBI. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, howdy, everybody. I joined late, just got back from a prior appointment. So just nothing really new here. Hope everybody is well. Nathaniel, I hope everything is with your other half is going well. And that's about all, gang. So take care. See you all next week, and I'll just be reading the mail here. Back to net control.
Okay. And next on the list is Michael, AA8K.
Well, thank you, Dave. Greetings to everyone listening. Back to you, Dave.
Okay. And then let's see if I haven't called on Jonathan, KC3EY. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. Lots of progress. So I've been working on. I've been doing some more investigation of the Dell Wise 5070 thin client, and to my surprise, there's an add-on board that you can get that will give you an extra serial port. So that will give you 2 serial ports, and I like to use 1 serial port for out-of-band management on my Linux and FreeBSD boxes. I use serial ports quite a bit, and I like to have one for out-of-band management. So I ordered some of those boards. It's a little module that you put in, and it provides a DE9 jack, and it has an RS-232 transceiver on it, and it plugs into the motherboard. So I was actually quite excited about that because that will give you out-of-band management, which is kind of how I want to manage these boxes, and that's how I want to have people access these boxes. If they're distributed to other people, I want them to be able to, if they can't SSH into them due to some sort of network problem, they can always connect an RS-232 cable and open up their favorite terminal program and configure and troubleshoot the network that way. So I was quite excited about that. The other interesting thing is that I mentioned that there were these modules or these boards with LEA M8T U-blocks GPS timing receivers, and these boards are in the same footprint and shape and pinout as the Trimble Res SMT, SMTX, and 360 timing modules. It uses the very same footprint. So Nathaniel, that means that I can very easily, once I get it configured, I could very easily swap out the Trimble module that I have and pop in one of these, and we'll be good to go. So that was something that I wanted to try to see if there actually was an issue with Trimble timing receivers if there's a sensitivity. And I did get an answer back from support, Pro Tempus support. For those who don't know, the Trimble timing spun off to Pro Tempus. So I spoke to Pro Tempus support, and I sent them data logs from the GPS receiver. So what they saw, so they saw when this was producing the PPS pulse edge that would walk after consecutive pulses. It wouldn't, the pulse edge wouldn't be at the same, it wouldn't occur at the same time that that the software was expecting. And when this happened, according to the data, the alarms were set indicating that that there were satellites out of view, and that the pulse per second was not valid. So those alarms tell the host that there's something wrong, and that's kind of what I had suspected all along, that it was a reception issue. But what I'm still trying to find out is there like a are these Trimble timing receivers, do they need stronger signals? Do they need really properly placed antennas? From what Pro Tempus tells me, they say yes. But the good thing is with these modules is that it's a drop-in replacement for the board that I'm using, and the software GPS daemon that I use, it will operate with both Trimble and different sorts of protocols. Doesn't matter. So this is a drop-in replacement. This is a picture of what it looks like, and it looks the board itself looks exactly like the Trimble boards. And what I think this is there were from what I understand, there were 4G base stations that use these Trimble timing receivers on these carrier boards, and Trimble discontinued them. And so instead of and I think the 4G base stations were made by Huawei. So I think Huawei actually made these carrier boards with these modules on them, and that was the solution to keep the GPS running on the base station. So if anyone is interested, this is what I'm talking about. There's not much data on these boards. You can see right here, there are two large pads, a plus and a minus. I used a set of calipers and measured, and I found a battery socket. So a battery goes here. I think a battery with surface mount tabs, but I found a battery socket that fits right in there on the DigiKey, and I ordered some batteries. So once I get this configured to the same timing pulse configuration as the Trimble is, Nathaniel, that's when I'd like to come down when there's time, and I could change this out, and then we would be good to go, and hopefully this will work much better. And other than that, that's all I have. Back to the net.
Okay. Next we have Scott, who usually doesn't have a mic, so we just acknowledge him. And then we have Tom in 5EG. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, I'm trying to get my mouse over here to unclick the buttons. Well, good evening, everyone.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Barely.
Your audio's down way low, Tom.
Oh my, okay. Hang on.
I think it's that microphone.
It's indicating, well, that's as high up as I can crank it. Is that enough?
It
That's
sounds
enough.
sounds good here.
Okay. It hadn't changed. I don't know why it's different this week. Let's see. First thing, I've been trying to get the wideband KA9Q web display working, still having a lot of problems with that. I've removed the Ethernet switch and just wired the client and the server together directly. Didn't make any difference. What happens is the spectrum display probably shows about 1 out of 4 or 5 frames, and the other ones are black. And if you look at the waterfall, it's mostly black with a few occasional bright lines in it. Ubuntu updated the NVIDIA drivers, which broke my video card. I had to go back to the Nouveau video drivers. So I could still have a video driver problem. My luck, I'm using a GTX 600 series NVIDIA card. The 6 and 700 cards were dropped out of support by NVIDIA last year. So there's no guarantee the drivers will work. On the other side, Franco sent me a link to some Lattice FPGAs for possibility to use with the FX10. In looking at the spec sheets, they're not fast enough to drive 4 channels into an FX10 device. I've been looking at LVDS. I can find fast enough LVDS devices, but they're one device per package, which is going to take a whole lot of packages. So that may not be too good. Still don't have a data sheet on the FX10. So I'm trying to guess the 74 ALVC CMOS devices are almost fast enough to drive the CMOS pins on what I assume the FX10 will accept for 4 receivers. The spec on the devices is minimum delay of 1 nanosecond, maximum of 5. So they have a real wide range, and they're going to have to be in the 3 or just under 3 nanosecond range. So I'm still going through parts trying to find anything that might be fast enough. I got the FX3 data sheet, but the input pins on that device are limited to a maximum of 100 megahertz. It's kind of an unusual spec since it's really, the data lines are 100 megabits per second, but the data sheet calls them out as megahertz, and I assume they probably meant megabits per second. So I've been working on 3 or 4 things at the same time. Back to the group, and that's it.
Okay, and last I wanted to mention Jamal checked in. I don't know if he had his microphone or not.
Hello.
Hello. Any,
Hi, Dr. Lee, how are you?
Good to see you.
yes.
Thank you.
Any comments?
No, thank you. For me, I have no news today.
Okay,
Thank
What-
you so much.
then we're at the end of the list and open for general discussion.
May I say something to Jim, K4BSE?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I look on the Linode server, and there has not been a complete upload. There was a partial one sometime on, I think, the 11th of magnetometer data there. Let's see, the last, 6/11/24. So I think you're not uploading anything right now from your Pi, at least to the Linode server.
Okay, I should get this other processor on Wednesday.
Okay.
I did think of one thing I might try between now and then. I hope I didn't get water in the outdoor unit. But I don't know whether that would cause a short that cause this or not, but I
Wouldn't
may
do it.
look in that a little bit tomorrow.
Yeah.
I
Dave-
had one underwater once and it didn't work after that.
That was all I had.
Thank you.
So
I've got something completely different that I forgot to bring up. I've been getting interference on 15 megahertz WWV, some swept pulse interference. I wonder if anyone else has been getting that or if it's more local. But it's interesting because it does not go below 15. I can go on LSB and get a clean signal, but it's a very fast sweep going up from 15 to about 15.1. I don't think there's anyone else on the East Coast that's on right now, but
Does it look like a radar, or is it on all the time?
it seems to be pretty consistent lately. It might be subject to propagation, but certainly, you know, when 15's coming in clearly, I don't hear it much, but when it's a weak signal, I hear it quite strongly.
Lately, 15's been the best frequency here, and I don't see it, but I'm on the West Coast.
Right.
But I see plenty of chirp radars on HF, just not on top of WWV.
Yeah, exactly. And it clearly starts just a little bit above 15, because as I say, if I put the receiver on LSB, I don't hear it. Put it on USB, I do. That's kind of annoying. And don't know how it's affecting our carrier measurements.
That's interesting. I don't know.
May try to do some DFing on it.
I mean, does it sound like a spur, or does it sound like an actual?
No, it sounds like somebody's chirp radar or something.
Yeah, well, that's probably what it is then.
Yeah.
There sure are a lot of them these days. If you can do a waterfall, take a picture of a waterfall, it shows it.
Yeah, true.
Show it to us. I might get some ideas. I mean, there are a lot of radars that I see, but they generally seem to stay, away from anything else that's allocated. They stay away from
Yeah, generally they do not interfere with
yeah.
international time frequencies and such. But we know there are some entities out there who don't care.
Right.
But it is band limited. It's really interesting. It only goes up to about 100 kilohertz above. And then there are a couple of other very raucous noises above that, just above it.
Is it generally audible on other SDRs in your area?
I haven't checked. That's a good question.
Well, that's the first thing to do is see if it's local to you.
Exactly. But I thought I'd ask quickly, see if anyone else has been noticing this noise. By the way, that U-Blocks board, I just found one on eBay that identifies it as a UA board, Huawei board. So yeah, it came out of some cell phone system.
Guess it sounds pretty quiet tonight.
Hey, Nathaniel,
Yeah,
do you have any information of where HamSci 2025 will be held?
2025, probably NJIT.
Ah, okay. Any thought about going back to where you work?
Probably in a few years.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it will probably do some sort of a circuit and come back to there.
okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to do some long-range planning. Where is NJIT located?
Newark, New Jersey.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Never been to New Jersey, so it'll be an interesting trip.
Yes, it's very nice.
That's one word for it.
I like it. I'm from the area, so maybe I'm a little biased, but
Yeah, the NGIT campus is nice.
it is.
I went to school in New Jersey, but a little bit different environment.
Which school did you go to?
Princeton.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Dave.
that probably is a little more picturesque than Newark.
Hey,
Uh,
Dave, you still getting any data from that antenna that's up in my house here?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
Yeah, the one I'm not getting is one at um, Mike Howland's. I got to get him to reboot.
okay. Oh, and my Morphine junk vertical lived up to its reputation for field day. Just couldn't between that. How did field day go for me? I couldn't hear. It was hard. Just the bands were dead where I'm at. There wasn't a lot of hard to make contacts.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We had a very abbreviated field day, and I'm not sure how. And we weren't focusing on contacts. We just have fun with the equipment. But we had serious thunderstorms both days, so we were dodging those.
Yeah, due to the extreme heat, I just couldn't leave the house. It's
Made a few 6-meter contacts, but didn't have any real opening.
yeah. So I don't know if it was the Morphine junk vertical or the propagation.
I think propagation has just been pretty bad lately.
Yeah.
Our club, most people didn't focus on making points. We came out to field day and just talked with each other. And there's a few points being made, but it was quite minimal. They put up like 13 antennas. I think they had a lot of fun putting up antennas, and but didn't really use them that much.
Oh well.
We also had an antenna mishap. We had one tower trailer that it's an old crank up military tower that actually used to have floodlights on it, but someone brought it down to we put a 6-meter and tri-band on it. Someone brought it down to adjust something, and they forgot that the tri-band was going to hit the ground and bent it. So they had to pull it apart and fix it. But we ended up putting fewer antennas than usual and whatnot. We went 6 alpha, but there wasn't any chance we were going to run 6. It's just anybody who wants to get on, take a radio. We might have been lucky if we got 3 on at a time, probably 2.
I was 1 delta. I could have been 1 echo if I turned on the generator, but I didn't want to run it. It just 1 delta was fine.
Yeah, the one field day I operated from the house during COVID, I did 1 alpha running off batteries.
Well, I don't have anything else here, so I'm just going to sit back and keep reading the mail here.
And we'll see if we get
to ask the group if anybody has used uBlock's uCenter before, specifically to change and to set NVRAM values in uBlocks GPS units?
Yes, I have. This is
Everybody
Tom.
probably.
Tom, is it basically because from what I understand, if you go into the configuration, you set your values, you send them, and then from what I understand, you have to export a text file and then write that text file as a configuration to the GPS. That's from what I understand, but I'm not really sure.
On the one that I did, this is the clock module on the Tangerine.
Mhm.
There's a USB serial interface. And so I connected that to the U-Center software, and it was able to send the commands directly to the, I think it's a Z9T or M9T, whichever module it is. It would send those directly over that interface.
Did you just have to click the send, or were you using U-Center 2 or the original U-Center?
I think it's like version 9 or something like that.
Oh, right, okay.
So version 9, you have options whether to program that into non-volatile RAM, volatile RAM. You know, there's a bunch of options, but you didn't have to do any binary or text by text stuff. You could just do it by clicking buttons.
Okay, I was using the earlier version, so I'll probably try out the latest version, because all I have to do is I just have to set some parameters of the pulse per second, and I have to set the protocol to uBlocks binary only. But yeah, it sounds like I just set those parameters, and it should send it to them, and or send it to the unit, and that writes it to non-volatile RAM, and that should take care of it. There's not really any other steps or anything else I have to do.
You have to go in and select the serial interface on the computer, so it knows, under Windows. It uses the one I was on Windows, and you have to tell the program which COM port to talk to the uBlocks part on, and then there's check boxes for whether any parameters you set are volatile, RAM-based, non-volatile, and you have options for each parameter as to how volatile or non-volatile you want to make it. And then if you goof something up really severely, there's a reset everything to factory default mode, I think.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Tom, thank you. I'm going to give that a try, and I'll update the group next week. So thank you.
Jonathan, I'll point out that if you have any questions on that, the guy to go to is John Ackerman.
Yes, definitely. I always hate to bother him because I have 10,000 questions, but yeah, if I do get stuck, really
My impression is he likes to be bothered.
Yes, he does. And he's been using uBlocks quite a bit, and
yes,
knows it pretty well. It seems so far that I've been using it, it seems a more of a robust receiver. I hate to admit it because I've been using Trimble ever since I was younger, and I was a big fan of Trimble, and I hate to admit it, but it seems to be a little bit more robust. So I can see why it's so popular.
Yeah, and I'm very excited to see how it works, because I'm looking at where we've got that antenna sighted, and I'm like, if that's not a good antenna sighting, like honestly, what is?
Yeah, I had to be careful. It was possible the sensitivity on the uBlocks is a lot higher than some of my older receivers. And I had the TAPR Gus, the amplified splitter. I was getting a bit too much gain out of it. And so I had to be careful not to overdrive the uBlocks.
Okay. All right. I will keep that in mind. Thank you, Tom. And Scott, I hope you could hear me, but I did want to mention VLFRX Tools has a utility called VTU UBX. And that utility allows you to configure the uBlocks module from Linux in many of the with many of the same options that that the Windows U Center program has. It doesn't have everything, but it has a lot of options pertaining to the pulse per second signal, turning off the SBAS and WAAS. I always turn those off, and different sorts of things. If you compile VLFRX tools, the VTUBX, if you run it in your command line, use -H, and that'll give you the help menu, and that'll give you all of the runtime options.
I wanted to mention Saturday is the SDR Academy at Friedrichshafen, and it will be online. So the one difference this year than years and well, Rob Robinette will be giving a talk, and I don't know it. They have Phil on there, but I don't think Phil's. Did you record something, Phil?
I haven't recorded anything. I plan to, well, it's either Rob or I will do something in real time.
Okay.
I opted not to go this year for health reasons, so.
Yeah. And the one thing different this year is they've increased the number of German talks because being in Friedrichshafen, I assume the local hams complain about the English.
In the past, it was like 50-50 from what I remember. I've been there twice.
But it is online, so if you enjoy that, you just have to get up a little early.
Yeah.
And where would you
I
find
thought
the
the schedule
URL?
Let's see if I can find it.
And Jonathan, what kind of an antenna are you using on the U-blocks? Did you already have one, or did you get one from the same supplier?
Right now I have a Trimble puck antenna connected to the U-blocks. I also have a U-blocks ANN. It's I forget the model number, but I think it's ANN something, that's made by U-blocks. It's also a puck antenna. And right now I just have it hanging out the window, just as a test. And so far, it seems to be more robust than the Trimble units that I've been using. In fact, the Trimble Res SMT units that I would use, they would drop PPS every now and then it would return. And so, but the MAT, the U-blocks, it's been rock solid. So I don't know. I hate to admit it, but it seems to be a more robust receiver. But Nathaniel is using a Trimble L1, L2 bullet antenna that's mounted outside of a shack.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. And I did post the link. It's 2024.sdra TAPR-HamSCI.io. And there's more information there about the schedule. There will be a YouTube link for the talks.
Yes, it's still pretty quiet. But Bill, it seems like we are getting closer to getting the RBN PSK reporter WhisperNet onto Madrigal.
Yes, we're going to talk about that tomorrow in our regular Tuesday morning meeting. Yeah, it looks like Catherine got the stuff we talked about in CEDAR. She looks like she got it working.
That's very exciting.
So I just have to write a little interface to trigger that program. I have to add argument handling to it so that it can be remotely controlled. But that's fairly straightforward. So
That sounds great.
On another version of it. I just have to put it into the latest version that you just sent yesterday. So
that sounds really great.
Well, and that sounds like a wrap for tonight.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Dave, should we close it down for tonight?
I think Dave is muted.
I think so. I think we will. I guess we'll see everyone next week then.
73. See you next week.
Thanks. Jonathan, I'll let you know. 73.
7-3 all.
Thanks.
7-3.